So let's get going. Welcome, folks, to our Tech Talk. I'm Erik Gross. I'll be your host. And that's me. Um, how's my audio? Pull up chat. Is the audio pretty good? Awesome. Excellent. Thank you, folks. Okay. All right. So I'm a I'm a senior level software developer. I've got decades of experience programming computers and teaching technology and all sorts of nerdy stuff. Okay. I'm also a U.S. Navy veteran. I was a nuclear reactor operator and electronics technician in the Navy a long time ago. Um, just interesting coincidence. President Carter passed away about a week and a half ago, and President Carter was in the same program I was in the Navy. He was in the nuclear power program, and wrote extensively about it in one of his autobiographies. It's a great story. What a guy. I'm also the co-founder of the Tech Academy, the organization that puts on these free classes, and really appreciate y'all taking a Friday night or early Saturday morning, depending upon where you are, to get a chance to learn some stuff. I hope we can be really helpful to you. We have an assistant in the chat, Gracie. You'll see her from time to time. She's in there as the co-host, and she's there to monitor the chat, answer questions, make sure people are being nice. We keep saying that, but I think it's been a year and a half since we had anybody be remotely a jerk in these classes. We get really awesome people in these free classes. Let's test the chat out. Do me a favor and drop into chat if you would, and let me know where are you joining us from right now. Tarpon Springs. I know where that is. I lived in Oldsmar, not far from there. Tigard. I lived in Tigard many different places and times. Oh, just Kuala Lumpur. That's all. Stefan is just joining us from Malaysia. That's all. That's awesome, man. Tulsa. Is that Garth Brooks' hometown or just where he I think that's where he started to get some traction. I'm a big Garth fan. Sydney, Australia. I lived there for a few months back in the 90s. Florida, Baltimore, Maryland. Calgary, Alberta, Canada. That's awesome. Madison. Very close to the birthplace of Dungeons and Dragons. Albuquerque, New Mexico. And New York, North Bethesda, excellent. St. Louis, one of my favorite cities. Hillsboro, lived there as well. I am in Slidell, Louisiana. It's about a half an hour, like northeast of New Orleans. It takes us about half an hour to get into the city, which is great because we get kind of a small town experience. But pretty much anytime we want, we can drive in and be in, honestly, one of the best cities in the world. New Orleans is amazing. Awesome. Mary's joining us from the United Kingdom, from Birmingham. Excellent. Wow, that is a fantastic mix of people from all over the place. So clearly you know how to use chat. That's fantastic. I try to monitor chat throughout the whole evening, right? And then Gracie helps me catch urgent questions. And as you're going to see in a moment from our agenda, yeah, Alan, we have Mardi Gras coming up real soon. As you see in the agenda here, we do have an actual like Q&A period after the workshop. So there's your agenda. Brief explanation of the Tech Academy. We'll have our workshop, some Q&A, talk about the coding boot camps that we deliver, and there's a free gift waiting for you at the end. So please stick around. I think you'll like it. So first of all, I'll be really brief here. The Tech Academy is the company that puts on these free classes, right? And we provide, among many other technology training services, what we specialize in are what are called coding boot camps. At this point, most people have heard of coding boot camps. If you're not familiar, they are intensive technology certification programs, and they're designed to prepare people for entry-level positions in tech. Depending upon where you go in the world, they might last anywhere from 3 to 6 months or longer, and they focus on practical, modern skills. Long story short, prior to boot camps coming around about 12 years ago, there was only 2 ways to get into technology: colleges, universities, or self-study. That was it. It was the only way to break into tech. And now there's a third way, boot camps. At the Tech Academy, we've been offering thorough, budget-friendly, flexible, trusted coding boot camps for over a decade. In fact, I think next month we're coming up on 11 years. Okay. And our programs are cost effective, self-paced, which is pretty cool, fully online, and they're tailored for beginners, people that have no prior technology or coding knowledge. They cover in-demand, in-demand skills that the tech industry needs and wants. They're endorsed by really, really awesome online reviews. They're really flexible, so you can fit them around your personal schedule. And we try to prepare people for a technology career by giving them a very well-rounded toolkit. The average cost of boot camps in America is around $13,500. Ours are significantly under the national average. In fact, we have boot camps that start as low as $59.80. And finally, I want to wrap up this section with our mission statement. Why do we even do what we do, right? The mission statement of the Tech Academy is to graduate entry-level technology professionals that excel in the basics of their field and thereafter have successful careers in the tech industry and whose actions raise industry standards and surpass client expectations. That's why we're here. Our product is you working in tech. So let's talk briefly about what this class is and isn't. Okay, we will give you simple definitions for technical terms. We'll explain tech-related concepts in plain English. This particular class doesn't have any coding. We do have free coding classes. I think every other week is a free coding class. And you can register for that on Meetup. In fact, Gracie, can you drop a link to our next coding class into the chat when you get a moment? And meanwhile, I'm going to switch out. All right. Oh, I see that, Gracie. Go ahead and throw me the link in chat and I'll drop it out. See what I can do. Okay. Come on, there we go. There we go. Okay, good. All right. Gracie, I don't think that link is the correct link. Something happened. That just links to whoever's logged in, whatever events they go to. So please research that link and see if you can get me a different one. All right, so let's talk about a day in the life of an AI developer. Oh, wow. Let me make sure I don't have the wrong slide deck. Give me a moment. I don't want to present you the wrong stuff. We have two different presentations here. Yeah, this isn't the right one. You have to give me just a moment. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I will find that shortly. And Gracie, if you can look for it as well, I'd appreciate that. There we go. Okay. I'm so sorry for the wait. We grabbed the slide deck for just a day in the life of a developer, not of an AI developer. I may use this deck if I can't find the right one and talk about the AI portion. Yeah, Gracie, I'm going to need you to look for that while I use the deck we have now. I apologize, folks. All right, now a lot of this is the same, depending upon whether you work in uh, AI or just are a quote unquote run-of-the-mill developer. Okay, so I'm going to give you this slide deck, but I'm going to flavor it with what I know of working in AI. So one of the things that some people are surprised to learn about when they look at a career in technology is that it isn't just code, code, code all the time. There's still, even now in 2025, a bit of a sort of a misconception about working in technology, being a software programmer, which is that all you do is program computers. I mean, we can be silly about it and say that, the stereotype of, well, they work down in the basement in a dank, dark office and they just peck away at the keyboard all day long while they eat junk food. No, that's not true at all. Making software, whether you're working in artificial intelligence technology or any other area of technology, making software is a very, very collaborative activity. Extremely collaborative. It's extremely rare for one person to conceive the idea for a computer program of any substance, design it, build it, test it, deploy it out to the marketplace, and then have some big, huge win. In fact, it's so rare that it makes news when it happens. Anybody remember Flappy Bird from about 8, 10 years ago? Pull up the chat and all that kind of stuff. I'm sharing the wrong screen. Here we go. Let me look at chat. So let me know in chat if you remember Flappy Bird. Angry Birds was developed by a massive team and made millions. Flappy Bird, yep, RIP Flappy. Um, it was, for a substantial period of time, super, super, super popular game. I know at least it was on iOS. Um, I don't know if it was on Android because I have self-respect, and so I don't use an Android. Sorry, that wasn't very subtle, was it? But Flappy Bird was made basically by one dude, right? Um, but that's so rare. It's incredibly rare. Software is made by a bunch of people all collaborating together, right? So when you look at this list here of what keeps a developer busy, whether you're in artificial intelligence or not, this is all the same. Yes, there's some coding and development, but honestly, as you're going to see, that's maybe 10%, 15% of your time. And all of these other things take up the rest of your time. Okay. And again, we'll talk about how these relate to artificial intelligence in particular, but that's the first thing I just want to let people know that might be surprising to them is that when you're working in tech, you aren't working alone that often. Yes, every once in a while, you're trying to solve a particular problem and you're the one doing it, and you kind of need to just make a quiet, distraction-free environment and just buckle down and solve that thing. But even then, whenever you are grinding on something, it isn't quite working the way you think it should, you're going to step away, probably go take a walk, maybe have a cup of coffee or whatever, and you're going to talk to someone else. Even if it's just getting the words out and communicating the problem suddenly makes you go, ah, oh, there it is. I didn't notice that. Even that alone is super valuable and shows it is a team activity making software and working in technology. So we're going to explore some of the things that keep developers, the things that keep developers busy. Okay. Now, again, this is from an AI flavor, artificial intelligence. And so the first thing I wanted to discuss is that there's a bunch of different types of artificial intelligence. We're not going to go into all of them. If you look at our free YouTube channel, which we're going to get you links to everything by the end of the class here, right? Out on that free YouTube channel is a number of presentations that we've given about artificial intelligence, and one of them where we lay out all the different types of artificial intelligence, from machine learning to computer vision to, of course, generative AI, which is what ChatGPT and similar tools are. Several different robotics. Robotics is artificial intelligence. A whole bunch of different things. Okay, but whether you're an AI or not, if you're working in tech, these are the kind of things you see on the screen here that keep you busy. So let's break into some of them and talk about how they apply, just so you can have an idea of what it's like to be working in tech and especially in AI. Okay. So you're really only going to spend maybe 10 or 20% of your time working on actual coding, actually developing some sort of computer program, working with artificial intelligence, whatever, building things. You're probably going to spend about, a fifth of your time working on that, right? And these are the categories of work you might be working on. You might be building some brand new feature, something that really adds value. Or you might have a defect, something that's actually like reduced the value of the service that your company is providing to people, and so you need to go fix it, right? You might be doing work that eliminates risk. In other words, you found a problem in your electronic systems that is like makes you susceptible to hacking, or is very likely to break if you experience a massive increase in volume of users or that sort of thing. And you might want to fix that before it becomes a real problem, right? Or you might be handling what's called technical debt. And you look at the very last part of that sentence, it says upgrading the quality of already deployed code and infrastructure. Now, I want to talk about what infrastructure is for a moment. Anybody want to take a crack in chat of tell me what they think infrastructure is? It goes straight to me. What does infrastructure mean in technology? Mark Wood says servers. You're absolutely right. Yep. Alan says it could be hardware, software, or both, but you're looking at the servers, the database, etc. Okay, good. So the answers I've gotten. Yes, love this. Stefan says the technology environment that supports data. Here's a very simple definition, but despite being simple, it's 1,000% true. You have your computer program that you built, you and a bunch of people, right? You have the computer program itself. Infrastructure is everything else that's needed to make it so that program can work. Examples, and people have already provided some really good examples. All of us have installed programs on our computers, which means you need a physical computer, like Alan said, right? Every computer is guaranteed to have one program running on it for sure. It's called the operating system. And in addition to many other functions, operating systems are what allow you to install additional programs onto the computer. So there's two things we have in infrastructure already: physical hardware, operating systems, and then other ones. And remember, these are not your computer program, but your computer program literally can't run without a computer, without an operating system. Often your computer program can't run if it doesn't have a database to connect to. Often your computer program can't run properly if it doesn't have the ability to communicate with other computer programs, other machines. These are networking technologies. All of these things are called infrastructure. And what's wild is you have to have them, and none of them are actually computer programs. They're not the program that you wrote. And I'm focusing on this point because, again, if you've started to look into computer programming a little bit and even done like little tutorials and such, you'll almost always instantly jump into, I'm building programs, I'm writing a program. I'm creating a variable and I'm printing something to the screen, I'm asking for user input, and all that's awesome. But the fact is that once you're done making that program, you've got nothing if you don't have all of the infrastructure for that program. A computer, operating system, networking technologies, database, all of these things. And so as a technology professional working anywhere, including artificial intelligence, you have to know about all of those other things besides just programming. Well, the good news is they're pretty interesting. They're a lot of fun to learn about. And there's plenty of training out there on how they all work. I just wanted to clarify the difference between those two things. Oh, awesome. Gracie dropped, let me get this link here. Gracie dropped this link here to, let's see. Oh, different one. You know what? That's fine. I can make this work. Okay. So this final thing where we talk about debt, okay? Very often in the technology world, when you're trying to solve problems for the business, right? You're trying to build some software or get some infrastructure put together or whatever, right? You don't always have the time or honestly sometimes the foresight to build it in such a in like the perfect way. There's almost always some sort of compromises you have to make. And by the way, if you want to succeed in technology, become skilled at compromise and communication and collaboration in addition to your technical skills. But the point is, you might very often have to, as a team, as an organization, just decide like, man, we'd like to build this to be a little more robust, a little more, less like hard to maintain. We didn't get it perfect, but we've got to ship it. We've got to get it out the door. A good organization keeps track of that. It says, all right, we've got to circle back around to that when we're not so under the gun. And so this is one of the things you'll spend your time doing, coding, is going back and going, all right, we built this. It works, but it certainly could be better. They call that technical debt, okay? Now, the other thing you're going to spend a lot of time doing is going to meetings. In most technology organizations, in my experience, at least in the tech area, this is not something that gets abused too much, right? As this is a generality, but most technology workers will not put up with crappy meetings that could have been an email. We just won't do it. And I don't mean to have a like technologists are awesome and we don't have to do things like other people do. But I will tell you that most organizations that hire professional technologists who know their business don't want to keep them wrapped up in a bunch of stupid, useless meetings. And so you will have meetings, but usually, and once in a while there's a company that doesn't really handle things well, usually they're going to be needful meetings. You don't want to design a complex computer program or a complex computer system all by yourself. Don't do it. Have a trusted, really bright, collaborative, high communication group of people with experience who will meet and together design the system. And if you can make that group as varied as possible, as inclusive as possible, you're going to have better designs in the long run. But that means meetings, which means, again, the give and take of collaboration and communication, being willing to see someone else's viewpoint. So part of the thing I want to focus on here, if we talk about a day in the life of an artificial intelligence developer, or really any developer, is that part of what you're going to be using in terms of your abilities that you've worked so hard to possess, they are, of course, going to be technical. You have to know your technology data, right? But equally, if not more important than that, is your human ability, communication, collaboration, understanding. These things are incredibly valuable because, as we saw from this list, a lot of this isn't technical in nature. A lot of it's human interaction in nature, which is kind of cool. All right. Another type of meeting you might have is work planning. You have to coordinate between people and plan out who's going to do what parts of a job. You might have a client-facing meeting, right? And this is another area where you can have a real career like differentiator as a technologist. If you become comfortable and skilled at interacting with clients and being able to speak, at their level of understanding of technology without being obnoxious or, talking down your nose at them or anything, you're going to do fantastic in technology. Okay. But you have to have those meetings because you really want to understand what they need and how to solve it. Right. And then change management. If you're going to introduce into an already existing computer program or complex system of programs, if you're going to introduce a significant change, you've got to have some way of reviewing, especially by senior people, what's going to happen when we do this? Are there any unintended side effects? And you can try to think through a lot of them on your own, but it's wild. When you start to get very complex systems inside a big organization, it's almost impossible to hold all of that inside one person's head and recognize all the different interrelationships. And especially since you might grasp all of it for a moment, but then people are going to do some work somewhere else in the system and you aren't aware of it. You want to be in a room where people who understand each, enough of each area that they can come together and predict if you're going to make a change, how's it going to affect this whole system? Those kind of meetings are really important. Okay. You're going to spend some of your time doing reporting and administrative work, personal productivity reports, right? Even if it's in an online tool that does all of your tracking of your work, you've got to update that work, right? You're going to have to spend time paying attention to emails and doing little trainings your company might want you to do and all this kind of stuff. You have to do it, right? And you might spend time updating developer documentation. I got to tell you, it's one of the most valuable things you can ever do at any organization is help keep their developer documentation simple, clear, easy to understand, and up to date. If you're willing to do that kind of stuff, your teammates will love you. All right. We talked about infrastructure before, but I want to clarify again some of those things, right? And especially when it comes to artificial intelligence, this is a really big deal because most of the tools you're going to work with to do artificial intelligence work are out in the cloud on Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Platform, if you hate yourself. But you're using these cloud providers, right? And this is where you're going to get your infrastructure, your servers, to host your computer programs, the networks that connect everything and help communication occur, right? Special machines called build machines. These are computers, special computers that you call a build machine, and they are what take the code that you wrote and turn it into a running program, and then it can be installed somewhere. Okay. So, and then what are called code libraries. These are pre-made chunks of code that you can use in many different computer programs. Lots of big organizations have their own code libraries they built up over time, and especially in this artificial intelligence area, trying to achieve some sort of standards, however long the standards are going to last, is going to really help an organization in this rapidly changing area of AI, right? So this is other stuff you might spend your time working on, is these areas, okay? Again, it's a collaborative environment. You're going to spend a lot of time helping your team. You might help someone debug an issue. They're like, man, I just need a second set of eyes on this. And you have them talk you through what was reported. Have they been able to reproduce what the problem is? Can you show the problem in action? And just look and watch. Again, literally with a second set of eyes, and then you can very often help them debug what's going on. You might spend some time doing what's called pair programming, okay? That literally means 2 software programmers, 1 computer. And you're working on writing some code, and you're both working at the same time. Now, one person's typing, but you're both discussing back and forth what you're going to do, and one person types it. Now, I have to tell you, this is extremely rare. I've done this 3 times in the last 20 years. I've been in a company that does this 3 times. I'll also tell you that I learned more per minute of working when doing pair programming than any other single activity I've ever had in technology. It's unbelievable what happens when you can let go of your ego, be willing to look like an idiot because you can't type very well, or you're not quite solving what the issue is, you can't think it. If you can just get rid of that ego and be willing to look like a fool sometimes in front of one of your coworkers, it's super valuable. It's unreal, like what happens when you find out like how someone else thinks and how they approach a problem, and then you'll turn around and you'll be like, oh, we can do this, and they're like, I never would have thought of that. It's super awesome. If you get a chance, do it. Okay, you're going to spend some time maybe delivering training or taking part in training with your team, right? Highly recommend delivering training on something interesting or new to your fellow teammates if you get an opportunity. If you have the culture in a company that will let you volunteer to do that and teach, it's super awesome. You might just spend some time talking through a problem, right? It might be you or another developer that needs some help. You just step into a virtual meeting on Zoom, or step into a break room at work, and just grab a whiteboard and just start like talking through it back and forth. Okay, these things are super valuable. I can't tell you how many times just having to explain the problem to someone else, like I said, all of a sudden something goes click, and you're like, oh, and then you go, thanks, and they're like, you're welcome. All I did was listen to you. Okay, but it really, really works. And a specialized form of helping your team that you might do is what are called pull requests. What this is a formal way to get one of your peers to review the computer program code that you just wrote before it becomes a permanent part of the program. You're saying, hey, listen, can you pull this code that I wrote? And can you review it and make sure that there is anything that I wasn't thinking through right, or I didn't, it isn't actually doing what it's supposed to? Any recommendations? This is another way to help your team. So again, just examples of what we do on a day-to-day basis as developers. Okay. And then you're going to build artificial intelligence software. Things you might do is what's called creating a build package. Now, let me explain a little bit about that. Let me go to chat here. Go to chat and tell me if you've ever written, even if it's just for a tutorial, if you've ever written any code and gotten it to run, even if it's just the tiniest little thing online, if you've ever written any computer program code and gotten it to run, even if it just printed hello world to the screen. Give me a yes or no. Lots and lots and lots and lots of yeses. Okay, good. So here's an important point that can help sort out, for those of you who are relatively new to technology, a pretty fundamental and important aspect of what we do as programmers. Okay. When you sit down with your text editor or whatever other tool you're using, like Visual Studio Code or whatever, and you start writing out computer code, okay? When you have that code, all it is text. It might as well be a Word document. It's just text. Now, why do I say that? I mean, it's probably kind of obvious, except that sometimes it isn't. You know, these tools that we use when you type in that code, have any of you ever noticed that sometimes they change the color of some of the letters and words and everything to make it kind of easier to read the code, right? It can start to to seem almost like we're dealing with something other than text, like super special. But I just want to stress this. When you're writing a computer program, you know, create a variable age equal to 21, right? If age less than 21, therefore you can't buy alcohol, like whatever, right? You're writing this program. It's just super important to remember that all you're creating is a little text document. That's all it is. And the fact of the matter is, as that document, that little file exists at that moment, it can't do anything. It can't run, it can't execute, nothing can happen from just a little text document. It's just text. And so this super important process has to happen. Now, there are other videos we have on our free YouTube channel that will go into this in a lot more detail, so I'm going to be very brief. You have to have a way of taking that text document, the words in it, like if, then, else, all this stuff, take that text, and you have to have a special tool that can convert that into a special language that the computer can actually understand. And that language is called machine language. That process of taking your text document that you wrote, you, the programmer, or the team, you all sat and you wrote this document, the process of taking that text document and turning it into a big set of machine language instructions that can actually be run on the computer, that's called compiling. And so the thing that comes out of that special tool, the compiler, it's called an executable. That's what a computer program really is. A computer program is a file that contains a bunch of instructions that are actually written in the language of the computer, not in the language we can read. And again, there's a lot more data about that if you're not familiar with it yet. Many of you probably already are, right? The whole point I want to make here is that you need to have an established process to say, okay, I'm done making changes to my code. All these text files, I've made a bunch of changes, and now I want to run the program. Well, again, you can't just run a text file. Nothing happens. So you have to go through a special process that will convert all those files into an executable form, and that will gather together any other files that are needed. Images, videos, configuration files that are written in text, all kinds of other stuff. Grab all of that together, and then you can take that, and that's ready to be put onto infrastructure, like to be dropped onto a server computer somewhere, and then you turn on the program that you just created, right? That whole collection is called a build package. And depending on the size of your program, like it might have tens of thousands of individual text files, it might take 5 or 10 minutes to do that process of having the compiler tool turn all of the text in those documents into an executable program, and gathering together all of the different assets like images and videos and other stuff, and getting it all collected and put into one place. That might take 5 or 10 minutes. And you, the developer, are going to need to know that process and be able to debug how that process works. And the reason, again, I'm stressing this is it's yet another thing that is not computer programming that you need to know about and how to do. And again, luckily, all this stuff can be learned. If you learn it in the right order, on the right gradient, you can learn all this stuff, right? But I'm just trying to paint a clear picture of all the different types of things that developers do, and especially to let you know that only part of it is programming. All right, the other thing you might spend time doing is running automated tests. When you make a change to those text files that are, will become a computer program, you might want to run tests, have some special tool read through all the text files and make sure that any problems might be in there are identified and you get alerted right away. Or you might create the build package and drop all that stuff onto a server and turn on the computer program. So now it's running, and you might want to run tests against that running program automated. And so you might need to build those tests, okay? And when you are building computer programs, you don't just like write it and then it gets approved and it goes straight out to your end audience. There's stages that the program goes through. There's a development stage where it's only developers working on it. Often there's a stage right after that, which is testing, where it's tested by people inside the company, not by customers. It's tested by people inside the company. And then you might take it and go, okay, it passed all the tests. Now we'll put it on the computers, that our customers use. Those are called environments: the development environment, a testing environment, and the one that the customers use is usually called the production environment or the operations environment. That's where the real reason we do all this work, our customers, that's where they use our software, right? So you're going to have to learn how to move your code changes through all those pieces of those different environments, how they all work. All right. You might spend time debugging, right? Now, debuggers are amazing. Using a debugger, you can actually stop a computer program in its tracks and inspect everything that's going on inside it. It's pretty cool. If we had enough time, I'd actually pop up a computer program and demo this to you. I love this kind of stuff, but you can find demos like that in a lot of our free classes out on YouTube. So you can see that if you want to. But the point is, this is a thing you're going to spend a fair bit of time doing, especially when it's like this. When you're writing, say, a big giant chunk of code, might add 50 or 100 different lines of computer instruction in your program. Probably like 98% of it is going to work just fine. And then one or two lines in there, one or two instructions are going to be like, what is going on? Why isn't that working? I swear I thought that was the right way to do it. And so it can be very valuable to be able to stop the computer program right before the instructions that aren't working correctly appear, and then poke around and look at, okay, at this exact moment, we've gotten this far into the computer program. What's the state of everything inside here? Is everything the way I expected it to be as I am about to perform the instructions that seem to be not working well? In other words, was there already a problem before we hit this point? And you can go one tiny step by tiny step, and it's super valuable. So that's, first of all, something you need to learn about if you want to become a programmer. And second of all, it's something you might spend a lot of time doing in terms of a day in the life, right? Another thing that's really valuable to learn how to use are what we call logs. Now, this is important. When you make a computer program, you're in charge of at what points as that program is being performed, do you decide to make a log? In other words, make a permanent or semi-permanent record somewhere else of what happened inside the program, like about to send an email to the customer right before you execute that, or about to connect to the database, or whatever information you're logging. It's not going to happen automatically. You have to build that into your programs. But if you will take the time to do that, and what happens is beautiful. You deploy your computer program and everything seems to be working fine and everything's good. And then a few weeks later, something goes horribly wrong and there's a problem. You're like, what happened? Well, you can go to the logs and you can literally start reading through it, and you left yourself little clues because you built in those log instructions. You go, okay, there's a log that says, yeah, okay, we asked for the username and password. Okay. And here's a log where we're about to call the database, and then, oh, that log entry says we weren't able to connect to the database. Why couldn't we connect to the database? Right? But you need to write those logs. In other words, the logs, they turn you into a detective. You can come in after the fact and read through and figure out what happened in a running computer program, but only if you left instructions to, hey, please keep a running record of what you're doing, Mr. Computer Program. But they're super valuable. And this part is also speaks to the human nature. This last bullet point here speaks to the human nature and communication aspect of working in technology. When you get some sort of report that something isn't working, in a computer program that you're responsible for. Unfortunately, especially if the report comes from a non-technical user, you're going to get something pretty close to it isn't working, which is super not helpful to you as a technology worker, right? What you need, ideally, if you can get it, is a little step-by-step. This is the exact actions I took that produced the error, produced the problem. Literally, I logged in with this username. I clicked on this tab. I entered into the form this exact information. I clicked submit. And then this error came up. Like, you want to have explicit, how do I reproduce the error? And after you spend any time at all writing programs, you will naturally think in that way. You'll be like, okay, I need to know the exact steps to reproduce this to make it happen again, because until I make it happen, I can't even start to solve it. I have to make the problem happen. And so the human communication factor comes in, where your ability to collaborate with the people that are, letting you know that something's going wrong, and help them understand the value to you of just taking a little bit more time and giving you exact ways to make this happen again, how it'll save them a lot of heartache, because this problem will get fixed that much faster. But if you can do that nicely instead of being a jerk, which sometimes happens, right? You're gonna be a lot happier, and they will be too. Okay. So this is some of the things you're gonna do as a developer. Okay. And the last thing I want to cover is really just what's the successful attitude to have as a developer. And this is no matter where you are in your career. You've just got this new role, or you starting in a new company, or whatever, right? You were given a brand new sort of project to work on. The very first thing, and it seems simple, is to find out what's needed and wanted from you in that role. Don't assume. Be willing to go, okay, I might at first glance, because look, the people who get into technology and the people on this call, you're probably pretty bright people. And you can look at a problem or a situation, and at first glance, you've probably already started to solve it and go, oh, I see what's going on here. And you're already in that, like, oh, I see, I want to fix it, right? If you're anything like me, I sometimes have to just tell myself to shut up and listen. You shut up and listen at first. So it's one of the best things you can do anytime you're encountering a new situation, a new job, a new project, a new boss, a new piece of software that you're responsible for, is just ask questions and find out what exactly is needed here, right? And then do it, and do it well, do it quickly, exceed expectations. This is a successful pattern for a developer. Now, again, this should not be a surprise to anyone on this call that this is something you would do. I bring it up because every so often I see somebody that doesn't do this. That walks into a new role, a new position, a new company, a new project they've been brought on to, and they start to have opinions, and worse yet, voice those opinions before they've actually looked adequately. And it's unbelievably frustrating for the people involved who have to listen to someone who just arrived tell them how everything is, right? But worse yet, the individual who's doing that is stopping some of the most valuable learning experiences you can ever have. Being willing to acknowledge that you don't maybe know everything is super empowering. I will be and am the first person to tell you and anyone I've ever worked with, there's an unbelievable amount of things I don't know, and I am wrong on a regular basis. And now this next part, it took me a long time to get here. But in most cases, when I'm working on anything involving technology or even, interpersonal communications, I genuinely get excited when I find out I'm wrong about something. Now, it wasn't always that way, and I can still sometimes be a bit of a jerk about it, right? But the fact is, it's just true that no one knows everything and no one's right all the time. And if you're going to act like that, look, you're delusional. But more importantly, let's say there was something you were genuinely wrong about and you'd been operating in that area for a long time. What that means is every single time you operated with that incorrect data, for however many years you've had that incorrect data, you've been delivering less value. You've been less effective to that degree. But the moment you'll acknowledge that, wow, I I might not be right about that, and you find out what the actual data is and verify it for yourself, from that point forward, you're never going to do it the wrong way again, and you know it. And that means your ability to deliver value, to be effective, just took a permanent jump forward. It's a super valuable thing to do. Okay. So again, this is about what do developers do on a day-to-day basis, but also, frankly, what I've found to be a relatively winning attitude or point of view to have in the industry. Okay. So I'm going to switch over now to Q&A. Give me a minute here. And I'm going to check out the slides. Go ahead and drop any questions you have. Alan, console.log for the win. Yes. Stefan has been using Gemini. I haven't used Gemini a lot. You know, a generative AI comparable to ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT all the time for my technology projects, but I know how to use it. Don't learn it to use technology. Learn to be a developer and then learn how to use ChatGPT. There's a bunch of classes on that in our free YouTube channel. Code, okay. Foundation. Blake has a pretty interesting question about what percentage of software development jobs do you think ChatGPT has taken over? There is in my opinion, an unbelievably false pretense or supposition in there, because you said since we're nearly to AGI, which is what Associated General Intelligence. What does AGI stand for again? I'm gonna look that up. Basically, it's intelligent computers. AGI meaning artificial general intelligence, a theoretical type of artificial intelligence that could have human-like cognitive abilities. Look, I'm just some old dude, so you can just totally discount my opinion if you want to. Computers do not have life. They will never have life because they are machines. They're going to become unbelievably impressive in terms of the ability to do things that make it look like they're actually thinking. But computers will never think. There's no spark of life there, no vitality, no soul, nothing. But that's my opinion. Now, that said, yes, absolutely. ChatGPT and generative AI are absolutely affecting the developer market, but they're not reducing the need for developers. They're making it so that developers, technologists, engineers have to become skilled in using these AI tools in doing their jobs. That's all. There's problems in technology, millions of problems that a computer is never going to be able to solve. But there's lots of problems that we have to solve along the way that the computer can absolutely help us with. So dive whole hog into learning your AI tools, but don't like stay away from technology because computer programming jobs are all going to become obsolete. I've been hearing that absolute horsepucky BS since like 1983. It's been predicted over and over and over and over and over again. You have no idea how many times that the media and like doom and gloom idiots have said, computer programming is no more. It's a dying industry. Over and over again for 45 years, I've been watching this happen. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen at all. It doesn't mean it isn't like more challenging to get a job. It doesn't. That's why I did a whole presentation on that this afternoon for the Tech Academy, right? But yeah, the jobs are there. Sorry, I am very opinionated about that, but I can't stand it when the media tries to scare people, which is what they do. It's their job, which is disgusting, but they're just scaring people. No, programming jobs are not going away. Man, I love all this stuff. There's a lot of stuff to talk through in here. Let's see. Brian has a great question. I really respect this question. At 40 years old, I have no knowledge in coding or computers. Can I still start a new career in AI with your school? But I'm excited to get started. It's really wild. When we started the school 11 years ago now, I mean, at the time, I was 44 or whatever. I genuinely thought all of our students, or the vast majority of our students, were going to be young 20-somethings. I had in mind, like, the bright, curious, interested person who, college wasn't maybe the right route for them. They're working as a barista. They're like, man, I love technology. I don't really want to go to school for 4 years, but I'd really like to work in tech. Hey, go to a boot camp. So I really had this idea. My co-founder and I both had this idea that the vast majority of our students were going to be young folks. Well, we have a massive amount of real data to look at now after 11 years, thousands of people in the school, and it's pretty much 50-50. You have people in their early 20s and people over 35. Like 50-50 split. It's really wild. And through all of that, they're all getting jobs, right? What's really, really cool about technology in my mind is that for the most part, they don't care how old you are. They really don't. Now, yeah, I think if you probably went down to like certain places in Silicon Valley where there was a bunch of bro culture kind of stuff, which is still completely not me, right? You might find that kind of like short-sighted, idiotic kind of point of view. But here, this is an important thing. When you see that kind of stuff depicted in media, very often when it does happen, it happens at pure technology companies started by people that have a bro culture attitude. Now, why do I bring that up? Because most of the jobs that are available in technology or being a software developer, programmer, whatever, most of the jobs are not at technology companies. And that's actually really important to clarify. Most engineering jobs, most computer jobs, programmer, project manager, quality assurance tester, software developer, front-end developer, all these jobs that people are getting, the vast majority of them are not at tech companies. And yet tech companies are what you see in the news all the time. They're at just regular companies. Here's an example. I've got a client right now. They are in the flower business. They sell, it's florists, right? But the guy's got a really fantastic idea for a subscription floral offering where you could just say, pay your $30 a month, and then 3-4 times a year on an exact regular cadence, flowers get delivered to your loved ones, and it kind of, you save some money and it's out of your hair. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. Now, his family's been in the flower industry for 60 years, but out of a brick and mortar. And now he wants to move to this online model. There's a tremendous amount of technology that needs to be installed. And so my company's doing that for him. That's not like a technology company. And yet they need to hire people that are professionals in that area. You see it all the time in the manufacturing sector, right? Almost every single company of any decent size needs technology workers. And they're not, well, I say they're not all tech companies. In fact, almost all of them aren't. So when you look at this kind of idea about like, am I too old, or what's the culture going to be like, or whatever, yes, every company's unique, and you might find these outliers there, here and there. But there's still problems in the industry with like sexism and BS like that at some companies, right? But in general, it's a meritocracy. If you know your stuff and you're a decent person who's easy to get along with, people don't care how old you are. And in general, they don't care like what your, racial or ethnic background or anything is. There's still some of that in certain places of the country. I wish we could fix that. But in terms of age, I haven't seen it be a factor. I know that's sort of a long-winded answer, Brian, but I just want to give it a chance to just kind of give more insight. Look, I've only got my one career to judge on, but it is 40 some odd years in working in and around technology. This is what I've seen. I don't think they're going to carry your 40. I really don't. All right. Ooh, Rajesh did a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. Now I did an internship in software development. Oh, yeah. If you can combine an understanding of the physical world, right, with mechanical engineering and anything like that, with the software world, you're golden. All right. Let's switch over here. I want to talk a bit more. Now we've looked at a bunch of different areas in and around tech, and hopefully I've given a bit of a picture of like, what do you really do on the day to day? I want to talk about what we do. Now, this may or may not be a fit for you. Totally understood. If it is any possibility to be a fit, then you should probably stick around. Also, I've got a really cool gift coming for you in a few minutes. Okay. We provide 12 online coding boot camps, and you can see here they cover a huge range of technology subjects, including artificial intelligence, right? Our AI developer boot camp rocks. Like, I'm living and breathing this stuff, folks, like on a daily basis right now. And because I'm like working with it and building AI stuff all the time, our curriculum is super current and really, really good. Okay. Give me a second. All right. So we have an AI boot camp. Obviously, I'm super proud of it. It's awesome. But of course, just all kinds of programming, website development, cybersecurity, which is hot. You want to have job security, get into cybersecurity. Okay. Design, data science, video game development, mobile app development. In fact, we have more certification programs than any other coding boot camp on earth. What are these programs like, though? That's like the super important thing. Okay. This is critical. They're self-paced. That's actually really unique in the bootcamp industry because they're self-paced and they're also instructor supported, which means you can go at your own pace. Sometimes you're going to fly through some of it. Some parts you're going to be like, oh man, I really need a little more help on this, but you're never going to be left behind. Okay. They're also flexible. You set your own study schedule. You can enroll 365 days a year. Our content is really well-rounded, really in-depth. They're affordable, like we talked about before, right? And all of our programs include job placement training and job placement assistance. But most importantly, these programs are designed for absolute beginners. No technology knowledge or experience is required at all. So you don't have to be a nerd. Yes, you might have to be you have to put up with my nerdy jokes that I drop in the curriculum, but I don't know what to say about that. Okay. These are some of our awards. We consistently land on every major best coding bootcamp list. And in fact, just 2 days ago, Course Report, which is one of the premier bootcamp ranking sites in the world, just put us in the top 31 bootcamps in the world, which I was super happy to find out. Okay. I've known the folks at Course Report since they began 11 years ago, and they are extremely picky. And we were in the top 31 boot camps in the world. That was awesome. Yeah, on Wednesday they announced that. Our average review rating across all the major boot camp review websites is 4.8 out of 5 stars. That's based on student and graduate feedback, which is really cool. Okay. But now just a couple quick questions, right? Why would you want to work in tech? Now we've talked a lot about the what the day-to-day work is like, so I'm not going to go into a huge thing here, but I will say that tech has really good work-life balance. and remote work is possible in tech. It's a very creative industry where you can take a lot of personal pride in your work, and it's a stable industry that pays really well. And if you keep on learning, you want to be a deeply curious person if you're working in tech, right? If you keep on learning, you get regular increases in pay, and you are well above pay grades for national average. I looked this up a couple months ago. The average wage, I think the average salary in America right now is 58, like 58,000 a year on average. The average salary for a software developer is 120. So technology just pays pretty well. Okay. That said, there are barriers to doing it via boot camp. There's barriers no matter how you get into technology, whether it's self-study, college, or a boot camp. But we know the boot camp area really, really well. One of the barriers is money. I mean, tuition costs thousands of dollars. What we've done to try to help with that is provide multiple financing options, including a massive upfront discount, a monthly payment option if you don't have like good credit. In fact, there's an option for everybody. The point I want to make here, though, is I would consider getting through a boot camp with the Tech Academy an investment in yourself. And I don't mean that in some smarmy marketing way. You're giving yourself a set of skills that are universal. The need for them will not go away for decades, if ever. And they are skills that are highly in demand because either one, people don't understand them, but they need them. Or two, people do understand them, but they don't want to do the work. That's a really good intersection to be in as a knowledge worker. Another barrier to doing a boot camp is time. There's a significant amount of time. There's a lot of stuff to get through. Some boot camps solve this by doing the training in what are called cohorts, where you can sign up anytime you want, but you don't start right away. They gather a bunch of people and they all start on the same day, which means they all go through the material at the same pace. I cannot express to you how much I dislike that mode of teaching. It's inevitable. Even if you're a really bright person and you're working really hard, there's going to be a day where something just, you don't quite get it. And the class continues on anyway. And from that point forward, you've got this little uncertainty about that thing. And you accumulate a bunch of those while you're going through your training, and you get to the end of it, you're like, I don't know if I can do this. I can't stand that mode of teaching. We have fully online programs, so you don't have to go into a building if you don't want to. You choose your study schedule. It's fully self-paced and means you can study concurrently to holding down a job or going to school. Okay. Final barrier to like getting into a boot camp. You do have to have some technical interest or ability. Now, you all took a Friday night to come to a free class about being an AI developer. There's probably some interest there. Okay. It's the ability part that I want to just check in on. Now, I'm going to ask you all a question, and I want you to put an answer in the chat here. Remember, only I can see these answers. They're not going to everybody else. Have you ever been studying anything about technology, computers, programming? Have you ever been studying anything about this area, and even for a moment felt like maybe you weren't intelligent enough or bright enough to get it? Let me know in chat. I won't say any names. Have you ever felt like, man, I don't know if this stuff is beyond me? Let me know in chat. Okay, good. Excellent. I just want to put out the idea. It's been my observation for decades now that, and it's a mistake I've made too. I've worked at putting together curriculum in a lot of different areas, and it's really easy, unfortunately, as an educator, to assume too much prior knowledge on the part of the beginning learner. It's really hard to remember what it was like before you knew a subject well. I mean, the people that are going to write curriculums should be experts in that area, but they should also be able to remember what it was like when they didn't know anything. And that's really hard to do effectively. And we've worked at it really, really hard. Okay. Our programs, you don't have to be a nerd to get through them at all. They're built on the right gradient with the right level of approach. All right. So this all leads up to a question. And the question is this: Are you maybe working a dead-end job, or you're unemployed even, or you want to work from home, you want more time with the loved ones? In other words, is it time for a career change? And if it's not, that's totally fine. If it is maybe a time for a career change for you, then I just want to put forth the idea that the Tech Academy is the solution. We are, in fact, career change experts. That orange bridge you see there, we chose that specifically because we want to be a route into technology for everyone. And at this point, we have well over a decade of experience breaking people into tech. Most of our graduates make $30 an hour on average in their first job. That's $60,000 a year with their first job, right? Um, we have over 1,000 graduates working in tech. It's well beyond 1,000 now, right? And they work everywhere, from small businesses to technical positions at Nike or Facebook or Disney, Uber, Epic Games. So as a reminder, we have open enrollment, and you can start any time. Now, this next part is a beginning of the year thing only. We haven't done this for a little while. If you enroll this month, you get 50% off your tuition discount if you pay up front. We'll also give you, if you pay up front, a refurbished laptop that you can use and keep to get through your studies. There's no sales tax no matter where you live. We'll pay the sales tax for you. We'll also ship you our books that you need to get through the program that can help you. Physical books, do you have them in your hand? An Intro to Coding book, Computers and Technology Simplified, our Technology Basics Dictionary. We'll also give you a physical copy of our Career Planning Guide, which helps you plan the first 3 years of your career. We dumped everything we knew into this book, right? You'll also get 90 days of free access to the Tech Academy Accelerator, a subscription offering we do that involves weekly workshops with me where we dive deep and build things and break things and get our hands dirty in tech, and access to over 100 free educational videos and courses. And you get, this is big, unlimited job placement until you land your first job. As long as it takes, we keep working with you till you get your first job. So if any of this makes sense to you and you think it might be the right thing, go here to find out more. In fact, let me grab that link. Boom, Gracie's all over it. Grab that link, okay? Fill out the form. It's super simple. After the form, there's a series of steps that tell you everything about the Tech Academy, so you can find out whatever questions you have. Well, I'll be there, right? Videos, articles. There's even a step to book a call with our admissions folks if you want, okay? And stick around. I'll get your free gift coming in a minute. I need a sip of water. Oh, awesome. Go ahead and drop it in, Gracie. In just a minute, actually, I'll tell you when. Okay, cool. Okay, another quick thing. We have a referral program. Since our graduates really, really love us, one of our top sources for enrollments over the years has been referrals. But it's not limited just to students and graduates. We put in place a commission program for referrals. You're eligible to do this. If there's anyone you think would be interested in our school, then just share their information with us. We'll keep track of it. If they end up signing up, then we send you a check for 5% of their tuition. Boom, done. No questions asked. Okay. All right. We also have 7 publications that we're super proud of these. Okay. We put a lot of work into writing these books. We've got 3 Learn Coding Basics in Hours books, a coding book for kids and young adults, a technology basics dictionary, a project management handbook, and You Are Not Stupid, Computers and Technology Simplified. Okay. All of these are really, really, really helpful. And speaking of that, here's our free gift to you. It's a copy of our project management handbook. And Jack and I, my co-founder, we put a lot of work into this over the years. I think you got the idea from tonight's class that there's writing code and then there's all of the other things that go into making software. Okay. Um, this book goes into a lot of the other things. How do you collaborate and manage the whole process of designing software, building the software, testing the software, deploying the software, maintaining the software over time? How do you manage that process? And I found that most resources were pretty confusing in this area. So we put together this project management handbook. If you want your own copy of this, we'll send you a copy. Just grab that email that Gracie dropped into chat, books at learncodinganywhere.com. Shoot us an email that says, I was in the free class with Eric. He said we could have a copy of the project management handbook. Here's my mailing address, and we'll send one out to you. Okay. Susan, I'm going to answer you right now. Okay. Elsa asks, is there an ebook version for those of us who aren't in the US? Yeah, and in fact, it's honestly really inexpensive. If you go to Amazon and type in Jack Stanley, Eric Gross, you can see our names here at the bottom. Just type in Jack Stanley, Eric Gross into Amazon, and you'll find them. Also, actually, in a moment, oh, here it is. Gracie's going to give you a link, actually. So grab this link tree right here, Susan, and oh, that was Elsa, sorry. And you'll find links to a bunch of stuff. Our free YouTube video channel, books and dictionary, those links are there, okay? Jerry asked if the price I said at the beginning was including the 50% off. No, that's we have boot camps that start at $59.80 full price, and so the 50% off is a lot less than that. Okay, but there's 12 of them. 12 of them. They all have different prices. Hold on a second. My camera is about to fall, and that will be a very bad thing. Okay, sorry about that. Oh, cool. Mark's read the JavaScript book. Okay, good, excellent. I'm just checking the chat here. But yeah, that link tree will have a links to a bunch of stuff. Okay. All right. So I want to thank you all for attending. Okay. Um, and just a reminder, fill up that form. You can see the link on here again, right? To learn more about our coding boot camps. Would love to see you at the next event. Right. I really appreciate all the questions. There's more than I could even have time to take up. All right. I would have enjoyed like more of this, but please keep attending these classes. Consider joining the accelerator. It's really inexpensive. And on the accelerator meetings, our workshops, it's open voice, uh, open chat. It's a lot more collaborative back and forth. We just get so many people on these free classes, we can't do that. But in the accelerator, you know, it's awesome. You get to talk back and forth as much as you want, interrupt me, whatever you need to do. Email address. Let me go ahead and drop the email address in for you again. Books at learncodinganywhere.com. And let me put it in the everyone in meeting. There it is. Mark, yeah, absolutely. You're welcome, Mark. All right. Gonna give it another minute to see if there's any other questions that drop into chat here. If you want to drop off, that's fine. Thank you all for taking a Friday night and doing this. I really appreciate it. I had it was a rough, busy day, and it's super invigorating to meet with folks like you and be able to answer questions, help in any way I can. Thank you, Mark. Good to see you. Thanks all. Have a good evening. Bye.